Now let's take a look at a little bit more of a fun formula here. Now I believe this is a quadratic formula, or a quadratic equation.
Hey,
this isn't the
thing.
Quadratic formula.
Right.
This is a quadratic equation where you have ax to the power of 2 plus b x plus c. So everything is kind of like moving down. Mm-hmm. So in this case, we're going to do...
a binomial.
Whatever. You're probably right. Mm. I haven't been in algebra in a long time. Z equals a times the power of x to the power of 2 plus b asterisk x plus c. So let's kind of walk through this real quick. Here's the a times x to the power of 2. So we translate that by separating it with an asterisk. Now, since we don't really need to separate this with order of operations, the power function will actually be evaluated first in this case, and then the a times will be for order of operations, and this would naturally happen in the program flow. And, of course, here we have the power function. Then right here, b times x, which will be evaluated next. And then we have c here. And then after that, the value of those expressions will then be added to equal z. Now here is the quadratic formula.
There you
Whoa!
go. Nice. Awesome.
Okay. Now, Brian, and this might take two of us to walk through.
Okay.
How about you start, and when you give up or get tired, you call me. Send me a text.
So we can visibly break down how we're gonna lay out this formula. So we have the top half and the bottom half, where the whole result is divided by something else, by 2a. And above that, we have everything that's in the square root, and we have everything that precedes the square root. So we can just march through it left to right. So we're going to store x as being the value of negative b plus, and now since the square root function is effectively a power function, we say the power of the result of the inside to 1/2. So by saying the power of the result of b squared minus 4ac to the power of 1/2. That's effectively saying the square root of. Mm-hmm. So negative b plus the power to the negative 1/2 of b to the power of 2, which we see is power paren b comma 2. So b to the power of 2 minus 4 times a times c. So in the order of operations, I think that'll just go left to right. Mm-hmm. So we'll have the power function will evaluate first, power b to the power of 2, then 4 times a times c.
Yep.
And then those will be subtracted from each other, which will result in the value that's calculated by power to the power of 1/2. And lastly, that gets added to negative b. Once that has been performed and evaluated, then it continues on to the forward slash and evaluates the 2 times the a, and the result of that is divided into the result of the upper half.
So, Brian, that was quite a mouthful.
Yes.
And we don't want to sugarcoat this. Computer programming is very math heavy. Sorry. There's no way to simplify that. So you have to kind of get your math order of operations under control if you want to continue in this. Hopefully we don't scare anybody with this, but it is important to understand. So maybe we can walk through this real quick, since this is the most complicated formula we have here. So let's just see if maybe we can make you feel comfortable with this. So as Brian described, this is broken up into 2 halves. Obviously, we have something divided by something, 2 halves. So when we walk through this, negative b obviously is set up as this statement here. Then we also have the square roots, which, as Brian so profoundly explained, is to the power of 1/2. Now, the reason why we chose to use a power function here is because you're kind of on your own with a lot of languages when it comes to doing roots. And the reason why is because programming is so math heavy, the assumption is you already know this. So some languages do have a square root function, but what if you have to do to the 3/4, to a cube root? A lot of times that has to be a power function because it doesn't contain that functionality natively. So we have that power. Then we have b to the power of 2, which is this here, minus 4 times a times c, which is this value here. And then lastly, the second chunk of this, we divide it by 2 times a.
And to be honest, if we go over this many times and you're still having a tough time getting it, maybe doing something else would benefit you.
Yeah, or just pick up a math book and come back to this.
There you go.